And in your book, page 43. Exodus 32 and page 43. Can we have a reader for Exodus 32:19 through 33? Exodus 32:19 through 33.
Sure. So it was, as soon as he came near the camp, that he saw the calf and the eggs. So Moses' anger became hot, and he cast the tablets out of his hands and shook them at the foot of the mountain. So he took the calf which they had made and burned it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and he scattered it on the water, and made the children of Israel drink it. Then Moses said to Aaron, "What did this people do you have brought to the sins upon them?" So Aaron said, "Do not let the anger of my Lord become hot. You know the people, that they are sent on people. For they said to me, make us gods that shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know where he comes from." And I said to them, "Whoever has any gold, let them break it off." So they gave it to me, and I cast it into the fire, and this calf came out. Now when Moses saw that the people were unrestrained, for Aaron had not restrained them, to their shame among their enemies, then Moses stood in the entrance of the camp and said, "Whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me." When all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him, and he said to them, "Thus says the Lord God of Israel, let every man put his sword on his side and go in and out from entrance to entrance throughout the camp, and let every man kill his brother, every man his companion, and every man his neighbor." So the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses. And about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. Then Moses said, "Consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, that he may bestow on you a blessing this day. For every man has opposed his son and his brother." Now it came to pass on the next day that Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin. So now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, these people have committed a great sin, and have made for themselves a god of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book which you have written." And the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot him out of my book."
Thank you, sister. Did Moses have more experience than Aaron with these people? Okay. You said yes. Anybody else disagree or have another observation? Okay.
I disagree. Because Moses was always doing God's work.
Mm-hmm.
So Moses was on the mountain. Moses was always talking to God. Aaron was the one who was with the people while the people were doing whatever they do. So while we're doing all this stuff, Moses saw the aftermath of what they usually do, but Aaron is always there with them.
Okay, so you're saying Moses didn't have more experience with the people than Aaron.
No, I figured that he was busy doing God's work.
So Moses knew the people, right? So he knew them. He knew them well. He knew when he came down and saw, he knew exactly what they were doing and why they were doing it, because his experience with the people, he's always relaying to them the message of God. And so knowing their behavior and then delivering and hearing their murmur and hearing them always complaining, he's the one who went up to God before the people to bring things back. So that's why I said, I feel like, yes, he had more experience with the people. Certainly knew the people, I'd say better than Aaron.
Okay. I have a check mark for Moses and a check mark for Aaron. Anybody else? Why didn't you ask me what kind of experience did Moses have? That should have been your question to me. Because Aaron was with the people when Moses what? Left. Who instructed Aaron to stay with the people? Moses. What did Moses tell Aaron and Hur about the people? What instructions did Moses give when he was up in Mount Sinai getting ready to journey up the rest of the way? When Joshua was standing there too, he said what to Aaron? Y'all don't remember the story? Dad? What was his instructions to Aaron?
God said, your brother be your speaker. So during this period when he was traveling and God sent his brother, go meet your brother who is coming to see you and listen to him. Therefore, Aaron is the man as a congregation lead. He knew righteous part. But I believe the first one that you asked him was Moses did not have that knowledge of their biblical part, but he was well educated according to the as a royal family, as far as I know. But the God chose Moses because he had that ability. Therefore, not only that, because God was choosing Moses before he born. That's why God giving him that task, and he had to go there. Otherwise, God would not try to kill him. That's my understanding.
Okay. Nadine?
In terms of instructions that Moses gave the people and Aaron before he went up to the mountain, he took Joshua with him and he told he left Aaron and her or something like that, his name was, and he told them to listen and do whatever it is that Aaron said to do. That was the instruction directly before going up into the mountain. Was that Aaron?
Yes.
So he said to the elders in chapter 24 of Exodus, verse 14, he said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Indeed, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has a difficulty, let him go to them.
Someone read again verse 25.
Of chapter 32.
Of chapter 30, of chapter 32's reading, verse 25.
Now when Moses saw that the people were unrestrained, for Aaron had not restrained them, to their shame among their enemies. That's where it stopped. If I go on to 26, then Moses stood in the entrance of the camp and said, whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him.
What does verse 25 mean to you as a reader?
That Aaron was responsible for the people and he had not done what he was supposed to have done.
Before Moses left, he grabbed the elders together. Joshua was there as a witness to that. His brother was there. He gave instructions to what kind of leadership? Because I'm going to get back to my original question. What kind of leadership did Moses leave the Israelites in care of?
If they have a legal matter to go to Aaron.
On this side of the Red Sea, what kind of leadership was over the Israelites in Egypt? Was it good or was it bad? They had leadership, they had elders. Who grew up seeing that and hearing about that? Who had more experience between the two men over these people? Moses or Aaron? And you still saying Aaron, why? So I want to debate that. Why did Aaron have more experience than Moses over the Israelites when Moses was a leader over the Israelites as an Egyptian, seeing them and knowing them? From an Egyptian perspective, when they were already stiff-necked and hard-headed people.
If Moses had that experience to lead those people, his father-in-law would not have to give him instruction. Therefore, Moses did not have that experience as he needed. Therefore, his father-in-law gave him some instruction. Therefore, I believe Aaron was all the time with those people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like for 40 years, right?
Yeah, Moses
Okay.
was out of
Moses wasn't there.
Okay.
out of Syria.
Okay, now, all right. Who else? Erica?
So, being with people and being a leader is not the same thing. There are people in this room who are with us all at the same time that are not leaders, right? So if we're going by the definition of what a leader is, that changes the whole context of the conversation. Secondly, Aaron was not called to lead these people. So prior to God calling Moses officially, Moses was still in a authoritative position, B, government role over these people. Aaron was never that. So what Moses positioned Aaron to do is why those people were unrestrained, because Aaron was more of a peer than he ever was a leader to them, which is why they were always getting into sinful activity under his leadership. But beyond that, I think we need to do like a timeline, because by the time Moses's father-in-law gave him that spiritual advice, right, there were many instances in which Moses had already been leading the people. There were many instances in which he was guiding them, guarding them, him at the burning bush with God. Those were all experiences that Aaron had never had. So the more experience, right? It's like we can all have 10 apples, but if I'm the person that's going to Trader Joe's and the question is who has more experience shopping for apples, it wouldn't be the people who possess an apple, it would be the person who's actually going to get it, right? So like Aaron was present with the people, but he was never at the same level of leadership. But I think we need to like define the word, because I don't necessarily think.
But that was the original question, though. The original question.
I'm answering the question.
The original
Go ahead,
question.
finish.
Yeah.
But I'm answering the original question as well as what Devon is saying.
Okay. Listen to, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to get you to see the providence of God. And in each one of your definition, Karen started off saying that Aaron had more experience than Moses did in leading the people.
No. That's not what I said. I said because Moses was about God's business. So because Moses was about God's business, Aaron was spending more time with the people. That's what I was saying.
Okay, so you meant,
Not leading.
what did you mean by that?
I mean that Aaron was with them. You asked about experience.
Well, Aaron was leading them. He was left instructions to lead them.
What I was saying is, we talked about experience.
Mhm.
My perspective, experience meant that he had more time with them. That's what I was thinking. Who had more experience with the people? Did Moses or Aaron?
Okay.
So in my opinion, I was looking at it as experience, meaning that he was around them more.
Okay.
So Aaron, in my opinion, had more time with the people because Moses was about God's business a lot.
Yeah.
So you're saying perspective is leadership.
Not
No,
necessarily
she's saying
leadership.
proximity.
I'm talking about the time that they spent together.
I think you're, when they're.
No, wait, hold it, Nadine, hold it. I don't want to mix
together.
2 points here. What I'm trying to get you to understand in leadership is just because I am around somebody doesn't mean I am leading them.
I wasn't thinking about.
No, this is what I'm trying to pull out of the question. You have a group of people that were what in Egypt? They were slaves in Egypt, right?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Were they obedient to God in Egypt? They didn't even know God, right? After 450 years, who's God? God said they are what? Stiff-necked and hard-headed people, correct? Who was with them the entire time they were in Egypt? Aaron.
Exactly.
Okay. Was Aaron a leader in Egypt?
No.
No. He had the same bad habits that the Israelites had. That's why he was left with instructions. You understand what I'm saying? Just because I leave you in charge, don't mean you have the experience to lead. Remember, Aaron was not picked by God. God gave Aaron to Moses because Moses had an issue with talking. Aaron was never a leader for God. God never picked Aaron to lead. He picked Aaron for one specific thing. That was to be the buffer to his brother. Now, Aaron was with the people. Karen is right. Aaron was with the people. Moses ruled over them. There's a big difference between being with someone, cohabitating with someone, being in the midst of someone, and leading someone. Hebrews said that Moses was trained. It said nothing about Aaron being trained. You understand what I'm saying? You understand the point that I'm making? Because Aaron, with his bad habits like the Israelites, got all of them in trouble and a percentage of them killed, even himself. Even himself. He was, somebody read Deuteronomy 9:20. Somebody read Deuteronomy 9:20. Because what I'm trying to do for you is to show you the difference between good leadership, bad leadership, and the experience of both. Because there are men in the church that's going to be elders and deacons. There are men in the church that are going to be leaders in other aspects of church. That doesn't make them spiritual leaders. That makes them leaders in that particular thing that they're doing in the church because they don't qualify for a certain Titus and Timothy position. Aaron didn't qualify for that. Aaron got that experience from God by being obedient from his disobedience. Moses was chosen for that work as a baby. He was brought up leading these people, ruling over these people. Okay? So when I ask the question again, between these two men about the experience, the first thing you should say, what kind of experience are you talking about? Are you talking about hanging out with them? Or are you talking about leading them? Because the difference between hanging out with them and leading them and leading them spiritually, one man did it right. The second man almost lost his life too. Because Aaron was there. Somebody read Deuteronomy 9:20 and see what it says.
The Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him. So I also prayed for Aaron at the same time.
He's dead too. God did a lot of things, starting with his brother and the Israelites, because of Moses' faithfulness. Aaron, who built the golden calf? Under the pressure of who? Does that sound like a person that you would trust to the people? No. Didn't Moses give him what? Instructions over the people? Why do you think Moses told Aaron about the people? Why do you think Moses told Aaron about the people? He was just like him. Watch out. Be careful. Lead them. Lead them. Don't let them lead you. Lead them, because they're already in trouble with God. When they got him, God got them on the other side of the Red Sea. There were places God wouldn't allow Israelites to go because he knew they didn't know him. You see what I'm saying? So the experience came in. Aaron learned experience. He grew into experience with these people. Moses was picked long before he even thought about it. All of his Egyptian upbringing gave him the experience to go back to Egypt and lead these people out of Egypt. So the difference between the two men, both of them was leaders. One was good at it, and the other one wasn't. And the other one learned how to be a good leader, but still messed up with his brother and didn't go into the promised land. Because sometimes, brothers and sisters, bad habits are hard to break, especially when it's up here. When you hard-headed, it's hard for someone to get through to you because you are adamant about doing what you want to do. Erica?
So Moses giving Aaron that advice is what makes him more experienced than Aaron. No, I know that. I'm saying, I think we should define leader and experience, because I think there's still there may be some lingering confusion. But what I'm saying is, in order for someone to, like, I advise my students to study or to stay in class because I have more experience than they do. So presence doesn't necessitate experience, nor does proximity. That's why I think we should define the words. If we're talking about, even like if Moses wasn't chosen by God, his experience can be marked by him guiding Aaron in how to operate with the people. It's the same thing with a parent, or even with Ellis and I, right? We're not the same age. He's older than me. We have been around the same type of circles, but him giving me advice, him supporting me, him showing me things and going off to do something else, then coming back and checking in is also a marker of his experience over me in certain things, right? So I think that they're just, like, for clarification, but I think defining the word leader and then also deep diving into like what type of experience is probably helpful too, because these were two people, even like Moses had more information than Aaron did. There's tons of scriptures that show that. Like Aaron wasn't with Moses when God even mentioned what Moses would be doing, who his name would be, what to say, what the whole, like, none of that had anything to do with Aaron. Therefore, Moses would naturally have more experience with the people because he had more information about the call, the mission, who the people were, and what needed to be done. By the time Aaron got any insight, it generally was secondhand, or it came from God about developing a priesthood, right? So like he was never a first tier information person. He wasn't at the burning bush. All of those things were given to Moses as experience with God, which is what gives him more experience with the people.
Brothers and sisters, you and I in church have a problem with this. That's why the room is so mixed. Those of you who don't like authority and authoritative discipline in the church, you're going to have a problem with Moses. Most of people in church gravitate to Aaron-like leadership. And that's a fact. Honestly, that's a fact. And you know that I'm telling the truth. Those of you who do not like and go way back, each and every one of you, including myself, go way back to your upbringing. Some of us had very disciplinary parents that didn't allow us to do certain things. When we got our freedom, we did what? We were free. We did what we wanted to do. Mankind, including Adam, had a problem with God's authority over what was right and what was wrong. That's why Adam sinned. The Israelites, as soon as the cat leaves, what do the mice do? They play. Because the leadership is not there. A lazy cat that don't bother mice will run up and down the side of the wall while the cat is sitting on the couch just looking. But if the real cat is there that will grab a mouse by the neck, they show themselves very often. As soon as Moses left, the unstrained in them that was on this side of Egypt came out in front of a guy that had bad habits and was a leader now. That guy, Karen is right in that sense, that guy was the guy that they gathered around. Because that guy said what? What did he say? What did he say to leadership, good leadership, when it got back? Go back to Exodus chapter 2. What did Aaron say to his brother? And let's put the sibling thing out of it now. Your boss just came back to you as a supervisor, and your boss got something to say to you about the work that's not done. You going to say what if it's not done? How many of us have said that? Your boss is going to find out whether you're a good leader or not, because if what the boss said to do is not done and you didn't lead it to be done, you think you're going to still be a supervisor? So what did Aaron say to Moses? Verse 22. I don't know why we're struggling. What does verse 22 say? Because all of a sudden, you ain't my brother anymore. You are my what? Aaron recognized what? Go to Exodus chapter 32. So Aaron said in verse 22 what? So Aaron said, do not let the anger of my Lord become hot. You know the people, that they are set on evil. All of a sudden, Moses is what to Aaron? Lord. I know you gave me instructions, but guess what? I wasn't the man. You know how these people are. You knew I couldn't restrain them. Why did you tell me in the first place to lead them? Look at the very next verse. For they said to me, make us gods that shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. Is this the first time the Egyptians complained? Is this the first time the Egyptians complained to Moses? How many times have the Egyptians complained to Moses prior to the plagues? Matter of fact, aren't the Egyptians the reason why Moses left in the first place? All that past experience with these people, he comes back after 40 years and they got no better. The leadership that he left them with to go talk to God was no better than the leadership itself, because the people didn't get any better under the leadership. In the 20 years that Samson was a judge, did Israel get any better under Samson, fooling around with all those women? No. We have a tendency in the church to pick bad leadership because we're bad people too. We don't want instructions. Therefore, we don't want people who are disciplined enough in their spiritual walk with life to tell us something. That's why we rebel against it. That's why you have cliques. That's why you have members over in this corner believing this and saying this. That's why you don't invite certain people to your house. You have a guest list that you want to talk to and talk about. Because in that home is a home that has bad leadership. That's all that is. So I asked the question again about experience. The first thing you should have said, wait a minute, Brother Sam, listen, what experience you talking about? Because I got one guy that was with him. I got a guy that was with him for 40 years, ruled over him, left for 40 years, came back, reassumed the role that he had and led them out of Egypt. And then I got a guy who was just like him. He gave him an opportunity to lead the people in the right way by restraining them, but he was just like them. I came back down. God sent me back down because God said what to Moses up there after he showed Moses his glory? He told him to get back where? To whose people? I thought they were God's people. God seen what Moses didn't see. When Moses and Joshua got near the camp, what did Joshua say about what he heard? It sounds like what? And what did Moses say? Oh, no. I got more experience than you. That don't sound like that to me. When they came over the horizon, what did they see? Y'all don't know that story. How do y'all miss this? Y'all don't see the intricate details that they talked about, that the Bible talk about how they danced and performed around that gold calf? They went buck wild under whose leadership? Aaron's. Moses come back. What's going on? Did Moses say anything to the people? No. He looked in there and he said, what's going on? Lord, you know, let me be the first to just draw the glasses on you. You know how these people are. They full of evil. Wait a minute. Who's exempt? Who's exempt? I chose you as a leader over these people. God did. And who was right? God. Although you have experience with these people, you're not a good leader. And the elders of Israel is not a good leader either. You see? So, what experience am I talking about? I'm talking about the experience to lead people in doing what is right. It's never and will never be easy. It'll never be easy. You know why? Because people fight back. People fight back. People do not want to be led. People want to have freedom to do what they want to do, say what they want to say, sit where they want to sit, eat what they want to eat, drink what they want to drink. In the assembly, people don't care that it's called worship. Folks' mindset is so far away from God. You know what? Don't say nothing to me. You say something to me, then I got an issue. That's why we have ushers. That's why we have rules and regulations. That's why we have direction. Because we are unstrained people. We don't like to be told what to do. We want our liberty and we want our freedom. And it's in the church also. That's why the Bible is full of instructions. And that's why we pick good leaders over bad leaders. Bad leaders over good leaders. Because the populists say, that's my man or that's my woman. Why? I like them. People do that all the time. Not what's good for them. I like them. I like him. I didn't like my other boss. But I like this boss because he says I can take as many days off as I want. My other boss didn't let me do that. It happens every single day. And the bad leadership in Aaron, with his experience with people, you know what he should have said? He told on himself right there, and here it is, verse 23. Verse 22, you know the people that they are set on evil. That was his experience with them. You know these people. You know these people better than I did. They are set on evil. So what did Adam say? There was a woman you gave. What did Eve say? There was a serpent who deceived me. What did Aaron say? It's your fault. You know how these people are. What did you expect when you got back here? I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader. See? So the experience of Moses brought what back to the camp? Brought what back to the camp?
Discipline and control.
They had to be disciplined first, right? What kind of discipline did the camp get?
Yeah.
That's right. God don't play. The first commandment is what? Love thy with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And the second one is what? Y'all don't know the commandment? So we all learn the same commandment. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So think about it. Think about it as we show me your glory. First of all, you got to be pretty high up to be asking a question like that. And you got to be pretty close to ask a question like that. Many of us say to God, I want to be close to you. But are many of us willing to sacrifice the behavior that Moses displayed to even ask that question? Lord, I want to be where you are. Lord, I want to be close to you. But do we show the restraint that it takes for us to be on that level with God?
Brother Stanley, I'm a little uncomfortable with a little previous conversation. I want to bring a little physical our experience, because we have to understand what is exactly this meaning and this book is. If we go mostly on this book is focusing about Moses, but our conversation was a little bit debate kind of conversation, and with their brother Adam. Before I go to their brother's history, I want to bring just as if, for example, this congregation. If I never learned Bible, but it's still I'm leading this congregation, and you as a Bible teacher, I learned from you something, and I come whatever I have to say here, because I learned from you.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who is with me in this congregation, they already leaders here. So people, they're not going to listen first for me. I have to tell the person who is leading this congregation. Likewise, if we go a little beyond the Bible, I'm not saying totally beyond the Bible, I'm saying little bit. If you go history, when we see Aaron and Moses is the family of Levi, they are the priesthood, and they know how they came their history, even though they didn't have any law, any books, anything written, but it's still they know their culture as a culture. Let me put this little bit of history. Let's, for example, I'm here as a Nepali, as an Asian. I do not know government, but we have a community, Nepali community. Still we follow what Nepalese culture is here. We still obey those things. Likewise, these Hebrew people used to do what they supposed to do there. Their grandparents used to do. Therefore, the Aaron is a leadership here because of they all listen to Aaron. The Joshua was young man, they just followed. But the Aaron was the elderly man among this community. Therefore, I'm saying you, Aaron was not a perfect, but as a community, he was the leadership. That's why God said, go talk to your brother. He will be your speak man. Because he knows people. Likewise, if you unknown place, if you go unknown place, no one know you. Therefore, someone you have to pick them as a background. So my point is here right now. In this situation, at the book of Exodus, it tells a little bit behind the background, but not the early before the Moses was born. Therefore, we have to understand that part of how they raise, how they grow, how their people be there, how their community is running. So that's why I was that part a little bit. That's not my totally argument with you, but I'm just as a humankind, how I live here, even though I'm church, a part of the member of Church of Christ, still I go community of Nepalis here, who lives here. I go there because I feel good there. Likewise, God picked this man because God's plan was bringing, first of all, God wanted to show people in as a slave. That was how God wanted to as a heaven when people are slaves. And God was the one bringing in region. That was, even though if you're discussing people, that wasn't human's will. That's God's will being slave. I can argue with them. But I'm telling you, this is the God's plan. That's why God chose Moses. God leading Moses. Almost like you be like a God. God said that. We look like a God. What that means? Human can be God? No. But the people would realize you will look like a God. So we are so many things to learn about this history. That's why this is congregation, and we're learning from background.
Okay. Anybody else? You know what you guys thinking right now? You're thinking far ahead of the story because all of you are educated in scripture. You're thinking, Dev just said, we're talking priesthood. Some of you had mentioned that. Every one of these patriarchs and matriarchs started as regular people, correct? Correct? In their start, what kind of people were they? Were they leaders? The kings of Judah and Israel were what? Most of those young men were what? Young men when they started to lead. They evolved into 1st and 2nd Peter, correct? Remember how reckless Peter was when Jesus was living? What kind of leadership did Peter display at that time in his life? And then 1st and 2nd Peter. 1st and 2nd Peter, he was a what? He was an elder. He was a shepherd. All 12 of them being replaced with Matthias, Judas killing himself, committing self-murder. Every one of them did what? Deserted Jesus, right? Training them to be apostles, they weren't good leaders at first. You understand what I'm saying? They had 3.5 years experience with Jesus 24/7, but they didn't learn how to be leaders until Jesus left and sent back a guide to teach them and train them. There are people in the church that assimilated into leadership, and then there are people in church who become leaders scripturally. That's why you have certain people that are in certain roles. Now, to Dev's point, and the point that I am not disputing, because you are ahead of the story, bad people can turn into good people through Christ. Amen. With your hand, everybody's hand need to go up in the room, right? We all know that. Now, the point of the matter is, while I'm being bad with the people are suffering. Go back to the story and keep biblical context. God never told Aaron he was going to lead people. He told Moses that Aaron was going to do what for Moses? Speak to who? Did God ever say Aaron was going to speak to the people? He used them to do that, but he used them for Moses' purpose to speak to who? Pharaoh. And in doing that, he gained the same kind of insight that Moses gained in those terrible times. He grew into leadership. Him and his brother did the same thing at the same time at the rock. God told him to do what at the rock? And what did they do? They became bad leaders again. Anytime you and I disobey God, we go back to the flip side of the coin. We forget all the good things we did, all the obedient things we did, and we put on that old person. And because of that, did both of them go into the promised land? No. Who died first between the two brothers? Aaron did. Moses died second. God showed Moses what? The other side. As this guy is saying right here in this first paragraph is so key. He's using an illustration that his friend drew the glasses on him. He said, Charles Payne was a dear friend of mine. He and his wife, Donna, worked with the Heritage Christian University International Bible College when I first became acquainted with him. For many years, despite his love for the Dallas Cowboys, I loved and respected him deeply. He was everything a young preacher student could ever want in a mentor. I tell people that Charles was the reason I became a preacher. Yet, when I once said this in front of Charles, he replied, "You give me too much credit for something I had very little to do with. You had made up your mind you wanted to be a preacher before you ever met me." Although Charles was instrumental in my recruitment and encouragement, in one sense, he was right. I knew what I wanted to do before I ever met him. Was the decision that God made with Aaron being with Moses a bad decision? No. Because Aaron was the first, him and his sons, to do what? Become what? The priesthood was established through who? Aaron and his family. He grew from a mistake, bad leadership, had the qualities, and this is where Dev comes in at, had the qualities to lead, but didn't have the refinement. Some of us have qualities to lead, but we don't have the refinement to lead. There are mentors that see that in us, but doesn't mentoring take development? It takes development, right? Anybody in here ever been mentored? That means a person older than you seeing something in you that you don't see in yourself and help you develop that along the way. And now in that, you start putting on the characteristics of that person. You start listening to that person and seeing what that person sees in you. Coaches do it all the time. They take nothing and make championships out of it. Gymnastic coaches do that on a one-on-one. Tennis coaches do that on one-on-one. Our development, God sees in the talent that God has in us and knowing us, but we are unspiritual first. We are unproductive first. We got a lot of rough edges around us, but God knew that eventually, hanging around Moses and these people, Aaron was going to develop into the first priesthood family. He lost his two sons, correct? His two oldest sons, but he had 4 boys. Mistake after mistake after mistake brought maturity. The same thing with Moses. He did not do 100% things right all the time. But God said, I speak to him like I speak to no other man. That's how we're starting off. Show me your glory. It wasn't that Moses didn't understand God. Moses wanted to be more intimate with God based on who he was. Who he was. And for those of us who inspire, just like this guy just said, he always wanted to be a minister. Some of us have inspired to be directors, owners, entrepreneurs. 40 years down the road, we achieved that. Some of us wanted to be Bible school teachers. Some of us wanted to be an elder. Some of us wanted to be a minister's wife. We achieved those things down the road. But how did we get there? How did we get mentored to get there? The first thing they do for you in Bible college, when you say you want to be a missionary, they train you how to live in a foreign country. They help you develop the language skills that you're going to get, the culture skills that you're going to get. Dev alluded to this. He's from Nepal, in the Nepalese community. The Nepalese people culturally function this way. Italians do the same thing. Spanish people do the same thing. German people do the same thing. African Americans do the same thing. Culturally, we are different. You understand what I'm saying? So to open up the paragraph like he just did, saying, I did very little, he just cultivated what was already there. And now the kid is a preacher. See? So being experienced at things, there are some of us that's going to be good at being good at, and some of us are not. Some of us need a little bit more time. We may need 5 more years at this because we haven't developed into being what leadership is. Bad leadership in the service gets you what? Killed. Get you killed. Bad leadership in the church does what? Kills the church. So think about it. Just think about it. When it comes down to leading, having a relationship with God, and wanting to be close with God, before you raise your hand, slow your roll. Because Moses went through a lot for him to ask the question, show me your glory. That's a big, bold question to ask of God. And guess what? When Moses asked God that, God was busy doing what? I shall not. And when he got through, Moses seen all of that. On top of what he had already seen, he wanted to be closer. And God just said, hold on, there's some things I'm able to do. I can't go against my word. You cannot see me face to face and live. Although I adore you, you are one of those people that have gotten this close to the very image of who I am. I'm going to show you the back of me passing by. But I cannot kill you. Because if I show you my face, you can't. Flesh and blood cannot inherit God. You cannot stand before me. So be careful. We all say these things, and some of us run from it. We just run from the very fact that we don't want to be that close to God. John laid on Jesus's bosom. That was a grown man. That was a grown man leaning on another grown man. And Peter was jealous of that. Peter was jealous of that. And those 12 men took the Mediterranean world and they turned it upside down because they went from scared, fearful leaders to giants, all because they grew. They grew. Had the power along with the 70, and when Jesus came back from the transfiguration, the majority was, remember, Jesus only took 3. The majority was down and couldn't even heal that man's son. And what did the man say? Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief, because your boys couldn't do anything. And what did Jesus say? Why ye of what? Little faith. Okay? So think about it. Think about the question that I posed and the way I broke it down. I'm not saying, never did I say Aaron wasn't a leader. I just defined for you the leadership qualities that he had to work on. Moses was not like Aaron. Why wasn't Moses like Aaron? Acts chapter 7 says what? Moses was what? Trained. Aaron wasn't trained to lead people. Moses was. Therefore, he was good at it. He didn't back down from people. And people seen in Moses respect that they didn't see in Aaron. That's why they got in trouble. That's why some of you respect some leaders in the church and some of you don't. It all depends on how a person carried himself. If a person carried himself respectfully, they will get respect. So just think about it. Think about it. Okay? All right, I'm going to end there, and we will start. I won't be here next Wednesday because me and the missus is going away for our anniversary. So y'all hold the ship down. I'll be with Mrs. Stanley. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
So just think about that. Okay?